computing, which is bizarrely less used because people, I think, prefer to go to somewhere where you people are more specialised person. It's risky taking a £400 phone or computer to a repair cafe. But appliances are big, so we do lots of things like ancient food processors, that's especially and general items, mechanical items, toys, lamps, like that. They're very popular. And we have a roof on sharpening, and that's a really big thing. Sharpening tools and knives. So that's the area, that's where we're at now, but we're looking to potentially move towards a tool library and expand a bit more. But the problem is space. So if anyone knows of any space they'd like to offer as a
for free
tool library premises, we'd be really grateful. We're lucky enough to have, which church? The Church of Scotland has given us storage space for all our repair cafe kit, and we're presently building up the equipment that we're luckily able to purchase thanks to the Town Council and NCC grant, so we get proper repairs.
because we can answer them.
But come along, if you're interested, come and see the Repair Cafe in action. Next one's 27th of May, 10 till 1.
It's not a question, it was a thank you. I actually took along a very nice hedge trimmer, which wasn't with me at all. It had a loose connection inside, but I couldn't locate where the problem was because I didn't have the right equipment. I took it in, and one of the long was able to find where the fault was, reaffix the irrelevant wire, and hey presto, all back to working, and very happy because it was a relatively useful and expensive piece of kit. It wasn't working at all, then it was working, and that was great. And it was in front of my eyes, and I could watch the whole process, what was happening.
That's part of it, is teaching people to repair. So when you bring something, you sit with the repairer, and they teach you show what's wrong or what's gone wrong with your equipment or appliance, and then they help you repair. So it's a teach and share situation, so that people can hopefully take
I recommend it too.
And the sewing is really good because lots of people have learned sewing skills, and we plan to run 4 workshops, subject yet to be decided, but we're running workshops on repairing, so people can learn more repair skills. We're hoping to work with ASDA community champion here to do some, potentially some repair cafes in a supermarket. Oh, and potentially here we would love to connect with the Northern View community and any of the other communities, particularly the trades groups with skills, retired gentlemen, who've got lots to offer, and ladies, So if anyone would like to offer up their skills, just Google Berwick Greenberg Repair Cafe, and there's an email to connect with us there.
And the biggest items that come in are electrical, and I think the first one was somebody wheeled in a fridge. So a fridge. So we go from large items to very small, tiny lamps and torches. So it's the full gamut. And I think what our repairers are really good at is because they're so interested. And one of them's got a wife who said that's the highlight of his month when he comes, and he's not even local, right? Is that they will sometimes with the agreement of the person bringing the item in, will take it home if they can't repair it there and then bring it back. And I think that's a really, it's just really, really good way of looking at things, right? So it helps the repairers, and sometimes I think what we found initially was particularly men coming in who wanted a zip putting in their what's-it. Who would then go and sit by themselves. We encourage them to go and sit in the cafe bit. So we have cafe with normal soul kitchen, with the bellies not bins. Okay, and we would encourage them to sit there. So they then got talking to other men, rather than sitting isolating while somebody's doing their sewing for them. And I think it's that whole thing about the social bit of repair cafes, as well as the practical bit about things getting fixed.
there's lots of good stories that come out of it.
Yeah.
A visiting friend of mine who's a lawyer ended up having his hiking kit repaired by Gail, and he gave her lots of free legal advice on how to do it. So there was this really good exchange of things. And one of the best things that was repaired recently was a ship in a bottle that a lady bought. She told us the whole story of how she'd had it since she was a child. Someone else bought a walking stick that had lots of the emblems on them from walking all over Britain, and that has been taken back to another great hiker who carves walking sticks, and he's out in the Cheviot, and he's going to repair it and send it back for next one. There's lots of great human stories and lots of interaction and support.
And I think a lot of, if a repairer can't fix something, it tends to be himself. I'm sorry, the women's sewing, just get on with it. Sorry. But if the men can't fix something, they will talk to the other repairers and they kind of do it together, which is what we weren't expecting initially, were we? But they kind of work together rather than as isolated. They help each other. So there's a lot of camaraderie, and I think most people who pop in say, wow, there's a lovely atmosphere. It's a really nice. Lovely atmosphere there. It's hard work, but it's worth it.
And on that point, it's possible just to come in without anything needing repair. Just have a cup of coffee and a cake.
Yeah, so I contacted Andy's Man Club here and encouraged them just to pop in and have a look. No pressure, just come and have a look. And they've been up here to Northern View and said, can you let people know about our repair cafe? And everybody's welcome just to come and have a look. Because there's a couple of people contacting me that think, oh, I might be able to help, but I'm not sure. So come and have a look and see what happens. No pressure on anybody. There's no exam. It's what we can all share between us that helps us all so stuff doesn't go into that dump in Berwick where you have to drive in and you're not. Anyway, sorry.
Steady.
Separate issue.
Don't talk about the tip.
Okay. Sorry.
Can I hand over now to Gareth and Jane? Jane is one of the councillors for Pride Park with Grove Ward, to talk about ideas for eco woodland. Gareth?
Okay, I'll do the boring bit first and Jane can do the exciting bit. There's a process laid down in law whereby parish and town councils can apply to the county council for assets to be transferred to the parish and town council. And it can be used for a wide variety of things. In this particular case, what we've done, after the ward councillors came to council and said residents would like something done about the woodlands along the side of Eatle Road, backing onto the back of Park, we approached the county council and said, in principle, would you agree to transfer that area to the town council for us to develop community woodlands? That was supported by a petition that got hundreds of signatures. County council now agreed in principle to that happening, but what we now have to do is turn that wish into something we can actually deliver. If you're from the area or if you want to get involved in the Community Woodlands project, there is a briefing leaflet here on the table. I am not a gardener, I am not a woodsman. My job is navigating this through the paperwork around this. Jane is our horticultural expert, and perhaps Jane, if you want to say more about what could be done with the community woodland, or what might be involved, if we can find the volunteers and the support to do this.
Well, at the moment, it's just wasteland. It's full of brambles. It's full of all sorts of rubbish thrown in there because people do that. So the idea is for us to take away any overgrowth, litter, prune and tidy any trees that are salvageable. But if they're not, we can dispose of the waste materials in our own nursery. We have the facilities, or will have the facilities to do that, so nothing will be wasted. Any plants that can be salvaged will be salvaged, and we intend to replant the ones to replace the ones that can't be, because there's bound to be some dead wood in amongst that woodland. We're create a walkway through. There will be wild flowers, obviously woodland flowers. It'll be similar to the one at Ford that goes along Rotary Way, but it will be wider, so I would imagine it'll have more of a winding route through it, a little bit more interesting. And hopefully the trees will plant all the native trees. We don't want everything that isn't. So that's about it. We intend to start that work as soon as we get the go-ahead.
Now, just ask, I know that Northumbrian Water, they often volunteer, they have to do so many things in the community, volunteering the hours, and I know they would be more than willing to do part of that. They would help to do the woodland walk along East Road, Northumbrian Water, and they have to do so many hours every month. It's like 2 days work of doing something for the community. So if you approach them, you'll probably get quite a few days out of them. They came last time to East Road and they laid all the bark all the way along the woodland walk at East Road.
Perfect.
So they normally volunteer sort of 4 to 6 men at a time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
Also, Repair Cafe, we have an information table, and that's something you could put on our information table, because there are people who come to Repair Cafe who could be interested in that. Right, so it's just a different way in, isn't it?
Definitely, thank you.
Anyone else on that particular area? No? Gareth?
Yeah, Jane hinted at the next steps. The next steps are not to complete the community asset transfer. We're going to be writing to all the affected properties that boundary onto the land to give them a chance to express their views clearly to us. We're also going to be doing a few visits to the site ourselves to scope out the work, and we're going to be looking to recruit volunteers, whether it's through people like Northumbrian Water or whether it's locally, because the ambition is that this is a community asset. That means that local people will be the key influences in deciding what happens, how it happens, and how it's maintained. So basically, watch this space.
Can I just ask a question? What is the use of the woodland once it's...
It's had no use. It's land that was basically left spare.
No, I mean after the project, is it going to have a walkway
Yeah.
to it?
The idea is that it's a leisure facility and a community resource. It'll have a walkway through it.
Yeah.
It could have recreation in terms of outdoor gym, opportunities for exercise. Whatever people want to make of it is what they will make of it. In other similar places, you'll see things like lots of bat boxes and bird boxes to encourage biodiversity. But the key thing here is it's not about the council prescribing what it will be. It's about local residents and users influencing what it turns into.
Any other questions? We seem to have dashed on quite quickly then. Item 5, High Street regeneration. Gareth and Graham, do you want to input as well?
Well, I can ad lib, but I wasn't pre-warned, so...
Graham Brown is one of the councillors who's going to be working on an action plan for the High Street, something you can basically tell quite quickly the areas that we've covered so far, but what we're still trying to do as a town council. It won't take you 2 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mayor, for this opportunity to do this without interruption for the next 2 minutes. No, I mean, honestly, right. Yeah, I mean, we all know what the town centre's like. It's nobody's fault. It's the decline of retail. It's the impact of COVID. Everybody shops online, and so online. So no wonder you get empty shops. There's an issue about high rents, but I think we know that the estate agents will all negotiate rent levels. We know that smaller properties, the MCC, will give rate reductions. So it's not really that what people say always, that they're too highly priced. I think it's all negotiable. I think we learn. I think basically there's not a great demand for shops on high streets anymore, especially on a high street like ours, which has got a lot of large units without particularly good access. You know, the W.H. Smith side of the road's got no rear access, really difficult units. Not many people want them. A lot of the big chains no longer exists. And it's absolutely great. We all celebrate, I'm sure, in our hearts or with our friends in the pub when somebody else takes over a new shop. And there's Millie and her mum, and what a splendid example they provide to us of people who took over 2 shops and have turned them into little shops. It's becoming a bit of a theme in Berwick, and it's absolutely great to see. West Street, yeah, there are more of them at Bridge Street, we all know, but even Bridge Street's got some empties. So it's a kind of never-ending battle. What we thought we would do as a council is spend some money and just try and at least, we can't take over the shops, although we did take over one as our office. We thought we would just spend a little bit of money and try and make the place look a bit brighter. We offered to put decals in all the empty shops, didn't have much to take up, but we got 4 or 5 in. Helped a little bit, you know, pictures of salmon fishing or whatever is better than a picture of, you know, empty, derelict looking shops, so that made a little bit of an impact. I must admit I was really disappointed with the response I got from owners, some of whom are local, and then there's companies like Iceland. I mean, they don't own the building, they moved out. Whoever owns that, clearly somebody knows who they are because they managed to negotiate and get the riding of the bounds stuff in the window. Never replied to me. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's I don't know. But we'll keep plugging away and we'll try and get more decals. It's not the answer, but it's a stopgap. It's better than nothing. We've also got the trees and the tubs. We put in 7 last year, 7 this year. A few. Yeah, they're cherry trees. They're going to look great on the bloom. I would like to see more. I haven't had a lot of feedback on it, but anybody who I've asked always says they look great. So I'm encouraged by that. So I'll be going back to the council soon and say we've got some money to do another 7. But then we've got to haggle a bit with MCC, who it's that bit where the disabled parking is. There's plenty of room for cars and trees, but I think there's a little bit of an on-site issue about exactly where the cars park. All they have to do is park a bit further back, and there's plenty of room. So, I mean, this isn't going to transform Berwick.
So, it's important to acknowledge that the County Council does try to play an active role within the limits of the budget it's got and the large area it has to serve. But we'll keep up the pressure, especially we talked to Councillor Seymour last night about new powers that are coming through for the County Council to be able to engage with landlords and essentially force empty properties to be auctioned off. In terms of retail properties, and suggestions. Whenever there's a possibility, we'd like to get some general.
Tied into the regeneration, is it not the case that the Mary Gate, particularly, should look more attractive? It's tremendous you've got Bowser, but how often is it used? And is there any way we can force people to clear the gutters so we don't have the hanging gardens of Babylon?
I've actually just been talking to somebody else about this today because if water was made available, I pulled up outside the shop today, and yes, the machine has been along, but instead of sweeping it and then washing it, they've literally just gone over it with the water, and it's just created muddy circles everywhere. On the other side of the street was absolutely filthy with pigeon poo everywhere, and there was a lot in the corners that are just completely getting neglected, a lot of silt and plants growing right by the roundabout, all the way around the barriers. And I think if there was some way that the council could help put in some kind of water facility on the high street, people like me would go out with a karacha and power hose as much of the street where our shop is, and other shop owners would hopefully do the same.
This is the problem here between what is town council's ability to do things and what is county council's responsibility.
But I feel like the machine that you're using either isn't working properly, or it's not been done often enough, or they need a little bit of guidance on how to use it because it's not doing its job at all.
Louise, this is county council's machine, right? They're the ones responsible for keeping
So
the streets
can the
clean.
town council not get a machine?
Well, that's why we actually invested in the water bowser. So we've got a high pressure hose now, and as what has been alluded to, we will get down when we can, when we've got time. We'll get our staff down to try and clear the streets off. It's not our responsibility.
No, I'm not saying it's your responsibility,
but we want to try
and help.
Yeah, we are going to
make
try and
it
help.
look more attractive. And at 6 o'clock on Monday morning, I went out and swept the bit right on front of our shop right up to the roundabout and down to where they were working on the building next door. And unfortunately, they're creating a lot of mess on the building next door and not sweeping up after themselves. So I went out and done it. But within 24 hours, it was absolutely filthy again.
I sweep outside my shop in the stairs. You know, it's exactly the same thing in West Street. Used to in the past, most of the shopkeepers were independents, and they took pride in actually what was happening outside their shops. Unfortunately, now you've got, particularly in the high street, it's managers, and they don't have that same kind of sense of pride.
Is there any water facility on the high street that
There
we
are
can
the three black boxes on the other side of the street have water in there. Now, I don't know how they could be accessed, and maybe one of the county councillors can answer that.
If there was something like a facility beside it that had a hose there that you could open up, attach and take across and do your part of the street would really help. I think putting a hose there, attachment, because nobody's going to want to plait a big hose around, but if there was one there, it makes it very accessible for somebody to take across the road and attach to something to clean an area of the street where you could do it.
Take on board the idea. If you can leave your email contact details with Gareth at the end of the meeting, right, and we'll come back to you on that.
The other thing I wanted to mention was the flags went up for the riding of the bands, which made the shop, all the whole high street look really pretty and everything. Why can't we have something else in place if they're going to insist on taking them down in a month's time? Wouldn't it be nice to have something else in place to make the shop, the street look nice? And also in the Iceland building, in the Iceland building they had all the horses from all the schools, which looked amazing. But again, they've taken them straight out again and chalked up the windows, which looks horrendous. And I think if you're going to put pictures in the windows of the empty shops, instead of just putting pictures of Berwick, wouldn't it be good to maybe put some kind of display board or picture of what the shop actually could look like as a shop? So put in a picture of a florist's window, what it would look like, or a butcher's window, or a hairdresser's window, or whatever. Just instead of just pictures of Berwick, do it so that people can get an insight and think, oh, actually, I could make that happen. I could see that work.
That was definitely part of the plan. I mean, we agreed absolutely. I have a list of the fantasy prints on it, and we had a catalogue of all the pictures we wanted to use, and there were some Berwick ones, some dolphins, some salmon, pictures of people shopping, and also, as you're suggesting, there was a vegetable shop, there was a wet fish shop, there was, I think we didn't do a butcher because we've already got butchers, but we were definitely trying to do that because I've seen this in other places. I think I've seen Nelson Square in Newcastle, where it actually looks, sometimes it's so good it looks like a shop. It's sort of like almost 3D. But to be honest, the reason it hasn't happened is I only got the 4 or 5 responses. If I got some more responses, if anybody can dig out a shop
few years
owner.
back, I went to a meeting in the town hall and I'd offered to dress some of the windows of the shops to make them look like shops free of charge, just to make them look tidier and give people, do 1 or 2 every couple of months to make them look a bit different.
Yeah.
I think even doing that, if you can, I don't know, go to the garden centre and ask to borrow so many artificial plants and a couple of buckets and spades or whatever, and just dress the window to make it look like a shop.
Gentleman at the back in the ready clothes shop.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to the gentleman who's just been outlining the work that's been done so far with the landlords, because I don't know if you've got down in Amble, they've got a landlords forum where they've had the same problem, and I know that Amble had the big plan and that's where all the redevelopments come from, but they've got when you go down to the quayside, I'm sure you know it, but they've got those almost like porter cabin mini shops, and I've spoken to all of the people who own those places. If you go in them, they plug in almost porter cabins, and every single one of them's taken, and it's a whole range of stuff that's being sold out of that. I've just taken over, I don't know if people remember it, but the old Sporran gift shop, and we're doing we've just launched an art space in there, which I know lots of people are saying, God, another art space, why, we need a corner shop or whatever. But the bottom line with it is that Amble's regenerated its quayside to the extent that they're making £3.5 to £4 million a year from that, and every single space on that front, if you remember what Amble used to look like, it's incredible what they've done in that front. So what they did was not just the large scale plan, but they forced the landlords to the table. Now I went round 8 landlords in the centre of Berwick, including the guy who owns the old Subway place on the corner, because I was looking for somewhere there. Absolutely refused to negotiate. And if you look on his, that was over a year ago, and I offered him a rate not far off what he was demanding. Now he's giving 6 months free away because he can't fill the space. So times have changed. And for me, it's a case of if you want to, and we all want to regenerate the centre of Berwick, you've got to go with what is going to drag people who are going to spend money into the centre for. And it's not, I agree with you, it's not big brands. They're gone. What we've got to do is get local and echo, look at what people like Northern Edge are doing. That's where you've got to go. That's where people are going to spend money in the town, and you're going to be able to get people in to go to those kind of places. But you're not going to be able to do it, as you say, if you're waiting for land, because the landlords think it's still the 1980s. That's the reality. And meanwhile, the centre's going to die. They're not making any money. They don't give a damn. The place, their places are falling apart. That guy with the Subway spent $8 grand doing that up on the shell, and then he's just let it deteriorate over the last 18 months. So I completely agree with you, but we've got to do something different and copy what successful places are doing up here, because it isn't good enough to just say, well, things have changed. They have changed. So we've got to change with them. And if it means creating a hub that can get people on a train 3 hours from London to come and spend London money up here, then why aren't we doing it? And for me, I'm more than happy to put some time in. I'd love to have a conversation about it, because I've put my money where my mouth is. I've opened a space, and we're getting people coming up from London viewing it now. So if they're spending money up here, I just think we can do more of the same and get some. I agree with you. Some of those places are too big, so we've got to cut them down, or at least fill the smaller spaces and get the rents down to a level where people are willing to give it a go. Because I agree, again, whoever said that about it used to be independence. Yeah, it did. Well, we've now got to create an environment where we're going to get more independence in. Otherwise, all you're going to get is people retiring, like the cycle place that nearly lost the green shop because of retirements. I mean, people are getting older, and we've got to replace them. But you're not going to replace them, just with the rates that some of these landlords are asking. And it starts with a lot of landlords. So I'm happy to help, but we need a plan to do it.
Well, you're not leaving the store without you getting your name.
Sorry?
Louise?
Is there no money in the pot anywhere that sort of the town council could buy 1 or 2 of the bigger shops and split them into 4 smaller shops and rent them out?
Not at the
As a
moment.
compulsory purchase?
If the community felt that that's the way we need to go, then we'd have to look at it. But to do that, your council tax would go up. Because that's where the money would come from.
Also, the slot in car parking that was taken away off the high street, I think should never have been taken away, because there's not enough pedestrians to fill the wide high street that's there. There's certainly not enough stalls. And I think your idea, I had the same idea for down at the Chandlery with the little hut zebras all the way down permanently, so that people, small artisans, can take over these. But down that, if you're going to keep that massive pavement on the high street, fill it up with those, get people coming into the town. The slot in parking should never have been taken away, because it brought people into the town who went into Boots or WH Smith that had free parking for half an hour, and it worked. It brought people into the centre.
I'm going to bring Gareth in first and then
Okay, quick practical thing, bunting. We've done it in previous years. If councils agree for spending, we'll do it this year. Priority right now for my team is getting the hanging baskets out on the High Street and West Street and Bridge Street. Once they're done, bunting will go up. Simple as that.
Also on the trees thing, can we get trees on the other side of the street as well?
I would love to see them there, but again, it's a practicality. It's known exactly what spots we can fit them that are acceptable to county. We have to ask permission all the time. That's the biggest issue we have, is we might be full of ideas, but we have to ask for permission. Okay? It's not that we don't want to do it. As far as bunting goes, the bunting is going down West Street. Well, that is your current sheriff and your current mayor put that bunting up, and we do that every year to help West Street. And as far as the side streets go, the side streets, West Street, Bridge Street, etc., they tend to be more lively and have a lot of the independence there because the rents are acceptable. When I first started out in 2003, my first shop, it was £10 a square foot on West Street to rent. On the High Street it was £45 a square foot. And that's what puts off independents being on the High Street. Rents are still reasonable in the side streets. Yes, we've gone through a recession. Yes, we've lost a few people who have retired. But if you look at West Street, there's a lot of buzz going around there. Bridge Street gained from the fact not only it got new people in, but there was a grant that came from English Heritage and Lottery Fund, which actually did top-down repairs. So if you actually look at that streetscape now at Bridge Street, it's far better than it was 20, 30 years ago. Now that happened about 10 years ago, and Bridge Street came up as a result of that. If there was more funds like that again, I'd be jumping at the chance of applying for those funds, because Church Street needs doing. The West Street, there's still areas need doing. We need to make a ton, but the biggest issue is, as you all point out, it's everybody sees the High Street. That's the biggest nut to crack. That's the most difficult nut to crack. But if the community feels that's where we need to be spending our money, we'll put your council tax up, but you will see the benefit, and yes, hopefully in the longer term, we'll have a thriving High Street again.
So what about the slot and parking? Could that be put back?
Ask your county councillors. It's not under our gift to get, to even go there.
Okay.
What we have asked for, and I have asked it constantly, we do not have a safe pedestrian crossing place on Marygate.
No, lethal.
It's lethal, and we've asked countless times for that to happen. It is our priority we are asked every year by county, what is our priority to what needs doing in the town as far as transport. And our number one priority the last couple of years is having a safe pedestrian crossing.
Could we paint our own?
Well, I couldn't possibly comment.
Sometimes you just need to put things in your own hands.
Linda, you do it.
Are you of the school of better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission?
It just feels like quite a simple thing that a few of us could go out with a couple of cans and paint and do it.
A few years ago there was a town centre manager. Oh, sorry.
Lady at the back?
I just wanted to say, could we have bunting in Bridge Street? Could we do something else to help Bridge Street at the minute? Because Bridge Street is suffering from the bridge closure.
Yeah.
And I've been banging on about the signage, which everybody will say it's county council, can't do anything about it. But surely the town council could help Bridge Street just with another couple of signs saying that Bridge Street car park is not shut, Bridge Street is not shut. What it says at the end of the road is road closed, diversion. And
I saw that it said that at West Street at the corner as well.
yeah, and you say that Bridge Street and West Street are good, they're filling up with shops. There's already 3 empty shops on Bridge Street, and there'll be another very soon, I can tell you.
It goes through cycles. As far as the bunting in Bridge Street, if I remember rightly, we have to have the bunting at least 18 foot above ground level, the height of any lorries, etc. And I think the problem is that where you've got the fittings for you on the walls for the Christmas lights, I think that's below the 18 feet. It's actually how we could secure bunting there, but certainly we'll get officers to look at it. As far as signage, we already put signage, didn't we, in a number of places?
I think we've had this conversation previously. We're looking at where we can put more signs that basically say Bridge Street and West Street.
I'm very grateful that you put 3 banners up. When I came to see you, one of the banners, I was told, had fallen off. And, oh, it's here.
Yeah.
It had fallen off. It hasn't been put back up, as far as I know. I was told, well, maybe we could put it at the bottom of Hyde Hill. Because, I'm sorry, but I've watched traffic come down, visitor traffic, they come down, they see the diversion sign, they turn around and go back. Bridge Street is dying.
If they've come down and gone past you, then they're going over the old bridge.
No.
They won't stop in the Bridge Street anyway. However, it's something we have to look at. And if we can help the community in the short term while this is happening, we will do it. Certainly we will. We'll try whatever we can.
Well, we've tried putting a sign out there ourselves, and so no, it hasn't helped at all. I mean, normally at this time of year, there would be lots of people on Bridge Street. Bridge Street car park, your revenue from Bridge Street car park must have gone down because it's quarter full. Usually packed.
it's not just that car park. The Eastern Lane car park today at lunchtime and it was half empty. It seems to be, I don't know whether people have been put off recently because of what's happening on the new bridge, and the people have been put off coming into the town because of the repairs that they're doing in the traffic light system. But the last few weeks, in general, footfall is down. It's worrying, but it's not just Bridge Street. We're all in the same boat. Yes.
I just think that coming in, if you were a visitor coming in to Berwick over the new bridge, the signage is quite confusing. If you didn't know the area and you just looked at it, it makes you feel as if it's closed as well. And I wonder whether, I know that's NCC probably, isn't it? Whether that could be a better signage.
What I'm thinking, and I need to go out Friday morning and look at it, is the two bus shelters the other side of the new bridge in Tweed is simply putting vinyl signs on the end of those, so that approaching traffic from the south just see signs that says West Street and Bridge Street still for business, parking Bridge Street car park. There are bus shelters, so we can put the signs on them. We've done it before for Visit Berwick, so with your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll be out Friday morning scoping that out and seeing what we can do.
Just getting back to the town centre manager, it seems to me like there's so many issues on all the shops in the town. If there was one person that could be reported to, who could take up with NCC, town council, or whoever was in charge. Because it's like, Pastor, that's not us, that's them, who do you contact and all the rest of it. Just one person to take the role. I'm sure that there could be funding, it could be a paid position, even if it was part-time. A few years ago there was a 3-year grant to pay a town centre manager for 3 years to help in the town. Unfortunately, he didn't do that much, and it was a bit of a waste. It's getting the right person. But I really strongly think, because everybody wants to improve the town, but everybody's hitting brick walls. That's not us, that's them. That's, and there's nobody to answer to. There's nobody here standing up saying, I'll take responsibility for the town centre, make sure that the shops have got somebody they can contact to come back with issues.
I think that's a really good idea, but also can you as a town council not invite Northumberland County Council to come and have a meeting like this with all the local people?
It's a major concern and has been for a number of years. We started a group 20 years ago called Bring Back Berwick. I went through the whole issue and hitting brick walls all the time. I've seen this constantly. And my shop, the demise of my shop on the high street was due to them taking the parking away from the high street. I used to do picture framing. People would pull up outside for half an hour, come in, get the work done, sort things out, and go up the car and drive off. Each parking space in a supermarket is valued at £2,000 an hour. So if you look at half hour parking, that's £1,000 a car on the high street. There was 40 spaces.
There's 40 spaces and there's for an hour at a time. We call them poppers because they pop into town, pop out again. This town relies on cars. I know we're different to urban areas where they have an ineffective public transport system. But 70% of our customers come from the rural areas.
So there's £250,000 a week removed from the high street when we shut those spaces.
Yes.
And it wouldn't take that much to put it back.
It wouldn't. It's not rocket science.
Unfortunately, that
the
is...
NCC, see, this is the thing, we need one person to be able to tackle that, tackle the gutters, tackle the shop window. One person, and what's it going to cost? 25 grand a year, 30 grand a year, to have one person responsible for everything in the town. In all the retail, the empty shops, making the owners clean the frontage. The gutters are disgusting. The seagulls and the pigeons are making a mess. It's not cleaned properly. There are lots and lots of issues. It can't just be pass the buck to NCC every time. There's no councillor here who will stand up and say, I'll take this on personally and will make sure. It just seems, not my problem, not my problem, not my problem. Yeah. Very disappointed to see your attitude yesterday.
Yes, of course.
Brian, I totally appreciate your passion and the passion of other retailers and residents. However, in defence, not defending the council, it doesn't need to be defended in this instance, but I'm going to try to reframe the situation. We do not own the buildings on you're talking about the messing about, not
Yeah.
being properly.
So the owners should be contacted.
We have,
Yeah.
and you'll know, from 20 years ago, and we've had various iterations to try and do this. Even if you had, and I don't think your idea is a poor one, it's a good one, even if we have a person who's on a reasonable salary, a retained salary, if that were possible, that person would still need to have that legal power. And that power.
They wouldn't need the power. They would just need the contact for the person with the power.
It's not that simple. We have that list of contacts. I'm sure the town clerk can confirm that, and I'm sure.
But then it should be challenged. You can't just accept them saying no. You can't clean the gutters. No, you can't
Those
put bunting
powers
up.
don't exist currently within the legal framework for local government. Now, rightly or wrongly, so there is a change upcoming that may bring about some alteration, but fundamentally, if we're talking about the building, I know this isn't just about the buildings, because there's issues about access and cleanliness and maintenance.
For me, it's more
and
about the
having
actual
a
street.
single point of contact, accept all those points, but you kind of bundle together things. Some things we can deal with, and you've also included in the same bundle, very passionately, and totally for your passion, but some of those things we simply cannot do, and they're not in the behest of the county council, they're not in the behest of certainly the town council, because of the way that our ownership of property in this country is designated.
It's not-
they belong to people
It's not-
who've
it's
paid
not
for
good
them,
enough.
and we can't just come in and go,
No, it's not good enough. Can't do is not good enough.
Brian,
Council
What about
Town
your
Centre
house?
is
If I came into
wonderful.
your house and said, Brian, I don't like the colour of your door. You
I'm not
couldn't
talking
say
about that. We're talking about cleanliness
do that.
and obvious things to make the town a better place. And just this council is a can't do council.
No,
You
Can I help
That's
by
not fair.
explaining how we've got to where we are? I think I spoke in the last 18 months to about 20 different sets of owners or agents on the high street. There's one property, I spoke to the owner when I eventually got hold of him in a care home somewhere in Scotland, and he probably put the property straight on the market. It's still on the market, and there are good reasons for that. It's through that programme of contacting people that we knew who to phone to start putting decals on the windows. Yeah? I'll give you another example, which I'm not telling tales out of school. We got to the point where we almost had a use for the Iceland building, and we had a proposal for how it was going to be used for the next 3 years, with government funding, or rather with combined authority funding, which we played a role in actually getting to Berwick, in conjunction with Northumberland County Council, who were brilliant in this particular case. And when we finally got to it, we couldn't get the landlords down to a price that was affordable for that building. Otherwise, right now, the architects that I took around that building would have been getting builders in on site to convert it into a culture resource for the town for the next 3 years. Culture resource sounds nebulous. It would have included things like a radio station so that your kids could learn how to work in media and get better paid jobs than you currently get in Berwick. So there is a lot going on. And it's not about that we haven't got a can-do culture. It's that often a lot of the things that we want to tell you, we can't tell you because we don't want to prejudice things that might happen in the future. It's really difficult and challenging. I'm going to come back to Louise's specifics about the environment. We've got an attachment for our pressure washer up at the depot. I'm seeing the charge hand on Friday. Basically, it's a rotary like a patio cleaner, which we can plug onto our pressure washer. It's ideal for coming down the south side of Marygate, see if we can shift the marks that are left behind by the county street sweeping machine. We will do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my promise to you, that we'll do it. It's a test to find out if it works. Weed spraying is supposed to be happening across the county. The problem with weed spraying is it's late, like grass cutting, because it's raining. And there's absolutely no point spraying for weeds and then having the weed killer washed off. So there is growth around signs and stuff, and yet there are issues because a lot of our residents don't even like us using any kind of weed killer.
Why are we killing weeds rather than encouraging wildlife?
Because in the town centre, eventually they cause the paving stones to lift, people trip and fall, and the town centre becomes less accessible. I agree with you that there's a lot of times when we kill things we don't need to kill. But if you've got a paved area and you've got weeds, eventually you've got a trip hazard. And that's why, by hook or by crook, they have to be kept safe. Whether it's by brushing and scrubbing or spraying. That's just the reality of life.
Sorry, I think if you spoke to a gardener, they can come along with a trowel and remove them very simply.
Yeah, I think
Have
we
you
might
gardened,
look
Brian?
at that to
Pardon?
look at a more
You garden?
environmental
Oh, yeah.
way of
Well,
doing
there
it.
you go, there's something for you to do, nice little project.
Right. Do I get paid?
I don't get paid, we don't get paid.
What I'm saying is a gardener would give you advice
Yeah.
on how to do it properly. Do you have gardeners?
Not one here.
No, I'm talking about the council.
We have one person who's dedicated to horticulture. Right now, the bulk of their work is on reducing the carbon impact of our planting, because we're now growing as many of the plants as possible in Berwick rather than importing them. Yeah, that's been a big project over the last year. It was going to come up under the next topic heading, which is Greener Berwick. But as a council, we've got every right to be proud of getting away from basically shipping or flying plants in from Holland.
But getting back to the high street, 2 hours a fortnight would do the job for the travel.
Let me have a think about that, because I don't think it's that quick. But in terms of the south side, we'll have a look at what we can do. We'll keep on banging on that we need it to be safe for pedestrians, which it currently isn't. Yeah? You've essentially got a death trap between the two sides of the road. And what makes linear shopping streets work is people zigzagging up and down them, not having to go up, down one side, find a cross and then come up the other. Yeah? So there's some work there. We'll be looking to the county council for support. We've specified what's required. It's what's called a table crossing, so that it's actually level, so that you don't disadvantage people who are less mobile.
Do you have a plan for the high street?
The last time we prepared a plan of any kind was 2021. It was rejected by the county council. Since then, we've focused on doing practical things that we can deliver without having to get other people's approval. If that sounds like a politician's answer, yeah. I'm sorry, but it's a short answer to a very long question.
So in other words, no.
Well, again, there's a county council there. Yeah, they are responsible for economic regeneration.
Yeah, just pass the buck again.
No,
I'm just asking if the town council has a plan for the high street.
Right, it's their responsibility ultimately,
okay.
Right? It's not ours. We will try and influence as much as we can. But we try and do the more practical things, the smaller things that make a difference to this town. We haven't got that high level vision. We can't deliver that high level vision. That's up to other councillors to do.
I can give you what was the basis of our last plan in 2 sentences. It is to enable a thriving town centre where independent retailers can get started, can grow and can flourish in an attractive environment that brings in footfall and gets in customers with money.
So that's the
vision. Have you thought about setting up a retailers forum?
Sorry?
Have you thought about setting up a retailers forum? Because I don't know, I don't mean like local business. I mean as in the independent retailers that are here. Have you thought about sponsoring a forum so we can make, because obviously every time we come to these meetings, this is pretty much the conversation. How about taking that into a specific forum? Sorry?
We've got a huge meeting room behind our office. I'll provide tea and biscuits. More than happy. Any retailers want to come and talk?
No, I mean actually advertise, set it up, advertise it so that somebody's got, so we can come together and start, because to your point, if you can't get the county council, the county sorting this out, then perhaps the retailers have got to come together.
Well, the retailers, there is the Chamber of Trade.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the Chamber of Commerce or Trade or whatever else. I'm talking about what's actually getting in, what's actually happening here with a bunch of the people that presumably around in this group tonight, for example. I mean, the problem is when you're talking about, you know, I've been involved in Chamber of Commerce's. It's a lot of it isn't linked into what's really happening on the ground, and a lot of it, unfortunately, yeah, I'm all for charity development and whatever else, but it doesn't link to anything real. And what I'm saying is, if you get a retailer forum in place, we can bring out all this stuff and start supporting that gentleman to get into some of these landlords that are letting the place go to ruin. That's what I'm saying.
we'll convene.
Again, I'm happy to support that, and I will put some time into it if you're looking for somebody to do that.
Absolutely. Within a month.
What date is it today? It'll happen by 15th of June. Simple as that.
So is there a chance of bringing county council people to a meeting?
I don't
Are you
control
able to
it
try
right
and
now.
arrange that?
We can ask.
Yeah.
Can I just say something? In terms of what you've said, you're absolutely right. And there's quite a few things that are going on that haven't been mentioned in terms of the town council. It is actually Catherine's ward, but I just wanted to intervene with a couple of things. I mean, there's a bit of a sort of idea, and I'm no fan of NCC. I think maybe kicking as everyone knows. So I'm not standing up defending them, but to be fair, the board, we've heard the Boardland project. I'm not, steal your fire here as well. Each county that straddled the Borderlands had one big project, one big multi-million-pound project they're going to support, and Berwick got that for Northumberland. So I think that's important because sometimes we have, Berwick never gets anything, but we got the one big project for the Maltings, which there might be an update on later. Brian Goethop of the Civic Society is doing a 3D model of the town, and he's building comprehensive, and he's been liaising with the town council and others, details of every shop, who owns it, what the situation is. None of these things are easy. I mean, I'll give you one example about the strategies you say about getting the people who own these buildings. A year or so back, I had somebody that said, me and another family member own several shops in Berwick. We want to turn Berwick to its former glory. Oh, fantastic. I said, well, let's set up a meeting. I'll get colleagues and we'll talk about it as a group because of what they owned. And they were saying they wanted to help the town centre. And then they said, oh, by the way, are there any grants available to do up the building? I said, not that I'm aware of at the moment, but that could be part of the conversation. Nothing came of it, they didn't get back, because all they were looking at is getting a grant to do their building up. So you're absolutely right, and that strategy in itself isn't, because there's some high worth individuals, there's some pension funds, the complication of the ownership of the town centre isn't easy. But there's more happening than you think, and I agree with what you're saying in some ways, Brian, but I don't think that you can't have one person because there's so many people involved. We need private sector, take away the public sector, it's private sector. Unfortunately, post-COVID, market forces, there's a demand for more restaurants, but we don't have the supply and demand because of the economic conditions and other factors as well. And I just think in terms of the town council, one good thing you have done is the jet washing. And that is a kind of simple practical thing because the council, NCC, obviously is dealing with the whole Northumberland, and if you say we want special jet washing in the street, they'll say we'll have to do it everywhere. But that's the kind of thing where you can tell the town council, which you've already started to do, this is what is really important because we have seagulls and everything, and actually the public will fully support that focus and resources on Marygate to get that Marygate clean. That's such a big issue. But again, there's so many difficulties because when a seagull splatters on the pavement, clean it up, what happens 5 minutes later?
When they do even worse.
I think they deliberately do.
They do, they do it deliberately.
But of course we'd be happy to do it anyway, as you know.
Becky?
Hi, speaking to your point about getting this together, I don't know if this is helpful, but Liberty, our tourism officer at...
Is that all right? Sorry.
We don't want to miss what you're saying.
Oh dear, how worrying.
Thank you.
Speaking to your point about getting business owners together and having some kind of event or forum, I'm here from the Community Development Trust, and we have a tourism officer, and Liberty's recently had a tourism event, and out of that came the desire for businesses to get together to have a business brunch. Could that be something that we could expand to include the sorts of things that you're wanting to talk about? Because ultimately all the businesses are influenced and affected by tourism, and that's what we're trying to do, is get the tourist pound into Berwick. So if we can help by facilitating that and including that as part of the business brunches, we'd be really happy to do that and talk about it.
One of the things, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to just spam, but one of the things that came across in one of the previous council meetings that I was at was that you have a budget for publicity, and I was just thinking about this lady here who was just mentioning the bridge problems. We've got the 400-year bridge celebrations coming up, and I was actually talking to the tourism board on Saturday about it, and I know there's things going on, but in terms of like having an impactful plan and really focusing on generating some buzz about that, that could be one of the things that could help out the businesses on Bridge Street. If we've got a calendar of things going on between now and September, when the tourists are going to be here, even if the footfall's down. Are you because I was down in Alnwick, and the English Heritage papers were out, and they're full of adverts of various things going on, craft fairs, between here and Alnwick, in all sorts of different places and whatever else. Have you thought about ploughing some of your publicity budget into starting to build up that 400? Because I know you've got the logo now. Saw it in the Bridge. So is that going to? Right. So can we use some of that to actually start doing some events? Because I was told there's loads of opportunity to do events if you'll organise them yourselves, and they'll include them in the bigger piece. Yeah. Well, surely that, bearing in mind the bridge is shut and it's affecting the businesses, surely we can get more people into the town if we start doing that now, because it's already May.
So are you aware of the Visit Berwick website?
Yeah, I've been on it.
Yeah, perfect. So that's been sponsored in the past by the Town Council through supporting the job role of Liberty and making sure that all businesses are on it. And absolutely, yes, we get the message out as much as we can. There's a calendar on there, which is through the social media as well. It's not a physical leaflet or whatever you want to call it. But, for example, so far this year, and we're only in May, the Facebook for that, for the reach for people looking at events and stuff, is 220,000 in 5 months.
Brilliant.
We've got 92,500 website visits so far this year. So that is there. We would really encourage businesses to come and chat with Liberty and get on that site. And
I'm not going to pull down anything that's going on, and that's great. But the reason why I'm saying that you need to look beyond, because obviously Facebook mostly is a lot of it is local, and the point with getting out publications in terms of like the wider piece, if you're going to drag people in, that's one way of using some of that budget that you. I think you said you've got budget for publicity. Have you not? That could be one way of doing it.
But we're also involved with, so through that there's Visit Northumberland, which is obviously a lot wider, and there are also negotiations and discussions going on with organisations such as Highlight North to bring people further up. So that's kind of bubbling away in the background, but if you've got some contribution to make to that Liberty can support with, please come and talk to us.
Well, sorry, I don't want to be the loud mouth at the back, so I'm happy to chat.
Coming back to publicity, a good example of one of the reasons why I'm always glad to be in events like this. The linchpin for our publicity around the 400 is, in something like a week's time, a custom-built flower display is going to be erected at the south side of the new bridge. Town Council's funded it to the tune of about £4,500. It's one of the few bits of planting we'll do that isn't made in the town, because it's computer assembled, and it's a representation of the bridge and the 400 logo, and that's the linchpin for our publicity on the 400, because it's something unique and different, and it's very photogenic.
And are you going to spend money on publicising that down in Newcastle, for example? And are you because I'm involved in some of the places down there, and if they know about it, they'll come and look at it.
Yeah, and we will be reaching out to the regional media and saying, here's a good story. It's got an image, please use it. And that's kind of part of what I do in the background. It's been unlucky in the last couple of years. I've mainly been fighting off the critics of the town. But this is a chance to actually say, here's something good and unique, come and see it.
Take your point across there. You can put it on computers, but actually the posters around the place would be good. There's a circus coming. I know about that because, like a lot of people don't go and visit Northumberland or visit Berwick. So let's advertise things so that people know about things that are happening.
Your physical posters are definitely a much wider audience.
Bridge 400 is not our project.
Oh, here we go.
It's not our project. However, once we get the details of their actual what's going on, we'll help with it and we'll support and we'll promote it, right?
Is that the county council project?
No, it's a
local independence.
Project there's a
instituted and have been working on this project for 18 months with support from various councils at various points in time, with financial support, some financial support from the Berwick Town Council and other places. Hello,
We are not good at publicising things. I mean, the freedom of Berwick, for example, no one knew about it. People should know about things. The Kingston Scottish Borders were involved the night, they found out about it the night before. You know, so tell people, put posters up, because they're not going to find it from the emails.
Freedom of Berwick, unfortunately, it was to do with the fact that MOD didn't want potential terrorists knowing about an actual march past down the high street. So it was a catch-22 in that instance. You couldn't advertise it because you were actually advertising maybe to the wrong people.
Only one of these big empty shops could have a full wall of posters of everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's maybe something that you should look at, is use the empty shops for advertising.
Sorry, get me the name of the owner who will let me do that, and I will do
Well,
it.
why don't you look for the owners and then try and do it?
Brian, sorry. Brian, I need your help. Put it that way. I need your help.
This young lady's been trying to speak for a couple of minutes.
Sorry, it's because I'm at the back. So I'm assisting in the promotion for the Bridge 400. Sorry, I'm assisting in the promotion for the Bridge 400. So that's what Visit Berwick does. We assist these programmes, events, and yeah, we just basically help. So we've created promotional assets for the town. We've got pamphlets on the way that will be used, digital distribution, and it can also be printed out to be used on the day. It's got a map directing people, you know, around the quayside where they want to go. There's banners for either side of the bridge that will be going up to let people know who are in the area when it's happening and where it is and where to find the information, which is on the Facebook group. And then there's also going to be posters that are being designed at the minute that will be printed out and spread around the town. And there's also already a poster in motion of the celebration dates surrounding the events with the groups that have helped to support the event. So I hope that clears something up. But the Bridge 400 group isn't, you know, it's their own, yeah, it's a group of volunteers. So anything that you would need to ask them, you need to go on their Facebook group. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think we've covered even part of Green Berwick as well, unless there's anything from Green Berwick you would like to should point on.
Well, I'm one of the current two coordinators in Green Berwick, only for the next month, because we've got new coordinators coming on board. But basically, I don't see why everybody in this room just doesn't even sign up for our newsletter, because you don't have to do anything, but you will then know what Green Berwick's doing, all right? So we're all bothered about climate change, and Green Berwick is working, we're Friends of the Earth local action group, and we've got very, very practical ways of looking at how we can all work, right? So we've got, as well as a repair cafe, we've got community grow, we've got single-use plastic, we've got issues around transport. What else have we got, Liz?
Monitoring the estuary.
Monitoring
Tweed
the
estuary.
estuary. Yeah, so with the estuary, we're monitoring the algae in the estuary with the Environment Agency and the Triangle. Thank you, Laura. Right, so we've got, yeah, warmer homes as well. So basically, we're very practical focus. We're not out marching in the streets. We're practical focus about what people can get involved in. So we've got a brilliant website. Look at our website. Sign up for our newsletter if nothing else, and then you know what is happening locally. Okay, no pressure on you, but it's the group in Berwick that is trying to make a difference in terms of where we're all at, in terms of the environment. Okay, it's a very practical group, lots of practical issues. So go look at us. It's www.greenberwick.org. And just have a look at all those things we're doing. Sign up to the newsletter. You don't have to do anything apart from receive the information, but you'll get to know more about us and the kind of work that we're doing in the whole Berwick area. Okay?
Thank you.
There's an AGM coming up, which anyone is
which is also on the website, and the establishment of the new committee for the coming year. So if you're interested and you want to see more detail on what's been happening over the last year, the AGM is at the Room Building on Thursday, the 23rd of May at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. And if you sign up to the newsletter now, because I deal with that, I'll send you the information. Okay. So we've got a good annual report that says what we've done so far, and what we're planning on doing, and it's very, very practical.
Does the council have a green agenda?
Yes. Well, it depends what you mean by a green agenda. If you want a piece of paper, we're not strong on giving you one of those. But everything we've done over the last 2 years has been built around reducing our environmental impact to the council and actually increasingly addressing the concerns of residents about green matters. I know that you have a particular view on this. It's why we went from a diesel vehicle to an electric vehicle, for instance. I think we're one of the first local authorities to have an electric vehicle of that size in the county. It's why we're looking to reduce the impact of our planting. It's why we're looking increasingly to prize biodiversity as a consequence of our planting. It's why, where we're stewards of land, we're looking to increase biodiversity on that land. Sample projects this autumn will be either replacing or reinforcing some of our fences around play areas with hedgerow, so that again, you're increasing biodiversity. Again, it sticks to that theme I mentioned earlier, when people ask if we've got a plan for the town centre, is we're focusing on actions that we can actually deliver in the here and now. It's about reducing our environmental impact as a council, which hasn't always been good. That to me seems like a green agenda, even if it doesn't satisfy the legal rules of what an agenda is. It's about what we do and what we're trying to do.
In what way can you reduce your impact on the environment?
Maybe just give me a whole series of examples.
Well,
I just wanted to quickly ask, I know it's not a green thing, but when the retail park was put at the top end of town, the town council, I'm sure by memory, had said, or I found out there was going to be a lump of money that was spent on the centre of town. What has that money been spent on? Was that about 40,000?
As far as I'm aware, it's still in the pot somewhere in County Hall, waiting for people to agree on what should be done with it. The original plan was it was going to be used to fund a bunch of consultants to fly in from somewhere else. No, you can tell by my tone that I don't think we need a bunch of consultants to come and tell us what's in front of our faces in Berwick.
So how can we move that forward to get the money brought to Berwick to actually do stuff on the high street like the things that we've mentioned?
One or two of us on the council sit on the Berwick Forum with a number of people who represent Berwick gather with chaired by the director planner from NCC. And the latest discussion there about that pot of money was to use it for signage to put on the A1 to say something like there is an existing sign, there is one that's put over in Storm Island, still not replaced, and it says something like, historic wall town, and the cost of these signs is phenomenal. So that would take, a couple of them would probably cost more than 40,000. But that was the latest thinking about where this money would be spent.
I think if it's going to be spent on signage, it needs to be a little bit more creative and not just have wording and say historic Berwick this way or whatever. There needs to have like a really colourful, creative, massive, one big sign with like a map of the actual, a basic map of the town and how to get into the town and where,
Unfortunately, it's highways, if it was an A1, it's highways authority that has to approve it. They will not approve something that distracts the driver instead of concentrating on the road, actually trying to look out a map, etc. We're very limited in what we can actually put on. I mean, even asking for a brown sign at Scremiston roundabout, which is really the true entrance from the south to Berwick. We've been crying out for that for how many years? Isabel?
I was going to say probably about 30 or 40 years.
So from my point of view, I don't think if it's just going to say historic Berwick this way, I don't think the 40,000 should be spent on that. I think it should be spent elsewhere much better.
I agree with you. Yeah. My biggest frustration, I am a retailer, right? And retailers, once you decide something, you get things done. Unfortunately, when you're a councillor, it's all the hoops you have to jump through, and both at a town council level and more at a county council level. We try our best for our community, but quite honestly, we're hitting our heads against a brick wall a lot of the times. It's good to have the meeting like this. Yes, we take the criticism where it's appropriate. We're more interested in the forward ideas, forward thinking ideas in the forum. Yeah, totally on with it. Where we go with it, I don't know, but what I can say is we've got 5 vacancies on this council. You know, if you really are interested in actually doing something for this town, please stand up and help. You'll get frustrated a hell of a lot,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, you are trying to put something back into your town, right? So please consider it. It's not a lot of hours per month, but at least then you are getting involved in these conversations on a monthly basis, on a 2-monthly basis, right? And on the different areas that we discuss. So, if nothing else from tonight, on the positive front, yes, we will try and tackle what we can. Yes, there's an awful lot we would love to tackle, but we can never tackle. But as your town council, we do our damnedest for you. Please, do not think that we've got our heads buried in the sand. We do try for your community. Thank you.
That's it. Not many people agree.
No, we did. Well said.
Is there anything else from tonight, Louise? Sorry.
My daughter wanted to mention.
Yeah.
It was just something about Berwick Conundrum Farmers Market. Would you be interested in trying to work alongside them to bring that down into the town instead of being?
I would love to.
Can I?
Yeah.
I think the farmers market and the actual market, which is not very existent at the minute, it would make such a nicer market for people to come to.
Can I lob a rock in a pool here? We've been trying for 12 months to get control of Berwick Market from Northumberland County Council. We think that a locally run, locally managed market would be much more effective than what we've got, and exactly what you're talking about. Bringing farmers markets in, bringing what other people are talking about in terms of using it to get retailers started. With pods, using the butter market for small stores like they used to be, all of that and more besides. We've reached a point where negotiations and grants were halt. And the reason why is that Northumberland County Council want us to give them £40,000 before they let us take over the market. And the Freemen want to renegotiate the lease. They're a charity. They have to do things this way and charge us a rent for the market of £1,500 a year plus 33% of profit. That's why right now we've parked that project, because there's no way I can make the market work at those costs, and I can't recommend the council. And if supply and change is exactly what you're talking about, is exactly what we wanted to deliver.
Can I suggest that when you ask the county council if they'll come to this meeting, can we get somebody who's in charge of the Freemen to come to the meeting also? Because the Freemen are meant to do good for this town, and if they're not doing good, they've got plenty of money in the pot. They distribute right the way through the year to all different Freemen in Berwick, and some of that money they could retain and put back into the town.
Is it the farmers market that they've got control of?
No, it's the whole charter market.
As in the one on
Well,
Berwick.
the
The
reason
farmers market is privately run.
Right. So the reason I ask is, can we not do an adjacent craft market? Because you're talking about the one up at the farm, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's got a lot of craft stuff.
So when you go in there, it's I would say 70% of it is craft stuff. So can we not bypass this completely and set up our own and do
It doesn't
start with
matter
a craft
what it is, because that's privately run in that building, and it's by the group of people who decided to start it up.
Okay, so can we not take some of that money that's stuck in county, take over one of these spaces and rent it, and set up something in an adjacent space without having to do that? Because if they're strangling commerce,
we don't call it a market.
Okay, so don't call it a market.
Can I?
Berwick's a market.
What you're suggesting sounds like what we called in 2017 a retail incubator. Take a large redundant retail space, subdivide it, stick 6 or 8 units inside there, which people can rent by the day, by the week, by the month. Have a couple of anchors in there, which would make sure people always go in. It's a really well-known concept. There are big companies involved in it as well as local ones. County Council have never taken up that idea. We have never found a site cheap enough for us to deliver it with the kind of space you need. And believe me, I've tried. At one stage, I was hoping that we could get home bargains for exactly that purpose. You all know what's happened next is prime retail. But yeah, what you're describing is ideal if we can find the right location. And I'm going to say to the north, even though the county councils have left, they're telling the whole world they've got £110 million in a fund as a result of selling the site at Camas for a data centre, which they're going to ring fence for economic development in the county. As far as I'm concerned, that's our next destination, try and find some of that money to come to economic development in the form of productive retail in Berwick.
And it's one avenue. I mean, isn't the new North East Mayor, wasn't she banging on about economic development? Can we not, she's just new in office, can we not get on her doorstep?
Councillor Hunter.
Well, that is a good point.
Yeah, just on that canvas one, that's the one thing that I've been promoting. If they have that down there, this money that's coming into the county, we need a share up here. And we need the share that's going to work for us. The right jobs, the right shops, we have our say as to what we feel our needs are. So I am pushing for that to come up this way.
When are we having a meeting as well? Seriously.
As I say, at the minute, I think we need to make sure they tie down and they get that contract in place. But then I will continue to push that we get a meeting up here with the locals.
Can I take you back, I think, 2 steps though, because what you were asking for was more for getting the market, the existing market that's up at the top end of town, actually into the town centre. In theory, if we had the markets manager for county council, if he was doing his job properly, he would be approaching you and trying to encourage you down into the town centre. I mean, and there is someone actually employed by county council to do exactly that. So, in theory, we could have stalls underneath the bottom market. We could have smaller stalls at the bottom end, right next to the Guildhall, and encourage these, the fruit producers and the gift shops to be coming down. Because again, there's 2 ways of thinking that. There are some retailers that oppose that idea because they think if you're getting people actually spending on the street, they're not spending in the shops, and then the shops are paying extra rates and rent, etc. for that space. But I would turn that around and say, if you have a thriving market, you have actually something that people want to come to the weekends, then that actually generates more footfall, and then the retailers benefit from it. And that's why we want to take on board the market, because we know we could do it damn better than county council. Because the existing market manager is based down south and he doesn't come up and he's not interested in what's happening up here.
In the olden days,
Once upon a time.
remember, there used to be a thriving farmers market in the Malting.
That's right.
So in the new setup with the Malting, is that not an option?
I think Derek Sharman, last time I spoke to him, and I think he's still got the daggers in the back as far as the farmers market was. It died a death because unfortunately at that time there wasn't enough people to keep it going. It wasn't the fact it was the maltings was the issue, it was the fact there wasn't enough footfall to keep it going. But that's not to say we don't revisit it again, and it's already working up the road.
No, I mean the issue was that once, my recollection is when I had a caravan at Lowick, even before I moved up here, was that once one stallholder left, then another one, and then it became unviable because there wasn't the range there, that there was an issue. But
it was on a Sunday as well, so it wasn't on a market day.
No, it wasn't on
I think the market day is to be encouraged to Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Okay, no, I hear you on that. It just feels like initially that worked really well. It had a full range.
Can I bring Laura in? I think she's going to want to say something.
It's on a different topic. My suggestion to the council and also to everybody who's here, if we could get Kim McGuinness up here for a meeting like this, a discussion meeting, and talk to her about the special needs of Berwick. I don't know how well she knows Northumberland or where she's from, but we should take the opportunity of introducing her to Berwick.
So who is this?
The new Northumberland Northeast Mayor, Kim McGuinness.
Who has put on Facebook a picture of herself supposedly in Berwick, but I don't recognise that background at all.
It was installed.
I mean, what do we have to do to invite her?
I'm already reaching out to the new Police and Crime Commissioner, who's already told me that she's definitely in front of Berwick, and I'll hold to that. We'll write to Kim's office have a word with them and basically ask if Kim would consider coming up.
I mean, she's making a big issue about coordinating transport on here, which we desperately need. So even if you need that as a sort of draw to get her up here, because that's what she's campaigned on, is this wonderful, wonderful new integrated transport on here.
If we can get her to come, if we can get her to come up, we'll have again a venue like this. We invite the community, right? Because it's your community. It's ours as well, but it's your community. You're the ones with the concerns. You're the ones that actually want to know what's happening at this very small local level. But Kim McGuinness is now in charge of a multi-million-pound budget for the North East.
Very good salary.
And she's covers from County Durham right the way up to the tip of Northumberland. But we are as much at need, and particularly we're levelling up. I think we are in great need at the top of Northumberland than they are certainly in the south of Northumberland, certainly Newcastle. Should be right at the top of the list.
And if she doesn't come, she needs to explain why.
Well,
could I make a suggestion that you could maybe make a list of the stumbling blocks that are apparent to the town centre, of people that need to be contacted and either brought into a meeting or
Brian, I think what we'll make to do is we'll try and work out a programme of what we'd actually want to ask her on that night. We'll get input from yourselves as a kind of air target areas, right? So then she's not coming cold. She might have some answers already in advance for us, yeah? Because I think that's more conducive of a meeting if someone's aware of the kind of questions we're going to have. If we can set up the meeting first, we'll give the community plenty of time to actually ask for the questions, and we'll arrange it.
Getting back to what Darren said, it's quite unacceptable that the man that's in charge of the markets is not interested.
I said that.
Sorry, no,
You might offer her a post opportunity. That's what gets our MP up here.
I mean, these people need to be brought into town and asked questions.
Unfortunately, Brian.
I mean, that should be the role of the town council, is to put the stepping stones in place.
Can I answer that? Because I think it's important to say that councillors have already raised this with me. That's where they got a slightly boring and tedious report about the ways in which the town council can scrutinise other levels of local authorities, which came to the last council before the annual general meeting. Because we need to punch above our weight. We need to look at how we hold to account transport providers. Because we're heavily dependent on public transport, and we've lost a lot of it in the last 10 years, and our rail services are still at risk. We have to be able to hold to account the health service. You know, I'm not going to rehearse here the issues about how far Berwick residents have to travel for some essential treatment. We have to be able to hold to account the county council for non-strategic transport, for things like housing and housing allocation, and for things like how we accommodate and support an older population. The town council can do that, but only from the point of view of asking the right questions. We can't direct, we can't order. That's why councillors came and said, can you do a paper on this? I've done it. We're going to go back into the topic in the new year, in this new council year, and start asking people to come and hold to account. Like I just said 5 minutes ago, we've already spoken to the Police and Crime Commissioner, because there's real concern among some residents about the lack of police officers in the town at night or on weekends. Yeah, so we're doing that already. We will keep on doing it. I just hope the next report's not as boring as the last one. That's all I'm saying.
And on the markets, we have asked the leader of the council to come to our next council meeting and explain why they won't waive that £40,000 so that we can actually then take on board the market and actually start improving it.
Becky?
It's just a point of interest really with regard to Kim McGuinness, the new mayor. As Police and Crime Commissioner, she had a specific interest in Berwick and visited us on a number of occasions and was instrumental in funding the project that's run from our building by Rise North East, tackling male suicide between ages of 16 and 30. So Berwick, it was very much on her radar at that point, so she has quite a lot of knowledge and quite a lot of contacts already.
So that may be good. She may be endless then.
Can I have one little quick thing?
Yeah.
Just getting back to the Bunton thing. If you're going to take her riding with the bounce button and can't put any more up, is there a thing that each independent shop in Berwick that's independently run could have a big drop flag put on a little bar outside their shop, all the same colour? Holly Tucker, a woman who has done this all over the south of England, has regenerated small towns like Berwick by doing this, and promoting them to have all these independent shops, and it just makes the whole streets look so much more colourful and inviting. And all it is a bar outside the shop. The flag is only about that width and about a metre drop from the top of your window in your shop. And it just says support local independent shops. If you have a look online, you'll see a page. She's done phenomenal things for small towns.
Good idea, Louise. One thing for this year, right? Again, we have to ask permission of the property owners. If the retailers are just renting, they have to get permission of the person who owns that building before you secure anything to them. I know that
So
from
if the
experience.
riding of the bounds bunting is up now, can't we just ask them if we can leave it up for the summer? Until the
certainly ask them
Christmas
because,
lights go up or something.
yeah, well, we can certainly ask them.
Yeah.
What I would hope I can persuade them, they depend on farmers who provide the kit to get them up to the bunting and down. And it's when the farmers are available to take it down. Yeah? We normally go to a local fire installer to borrow their cherry picker. If I can get the right ones to leave their bundle a bit longer while I get ours organised, more than happy to do that, and we'll then take it down for them and store it. Yeah. Quick question: any suggestions on colours? Well, we've done red, white, and blue in the past. We've done black and gold in the past.
I think
we've done silver and purple.
Something colourful and to include green. Because if we're trying to make Berwick a greener place as well, green is a good colour.
Why not just have rainbow, multicoloured ones,
Multicoloured,
individual colours?
yeah.
Yeah.
Pink, blue and green or something. Yeah, pink and green.
And on that point, West Street, once the scaffolding's down at the top, there's our little contribution. Sorry, not the sheriff, the previous sheriff.
Just one quick thing, sorry, before we finish.
Yeah,
The
right.
parking on the high street, is there any way that could be looked at again?
It's been looked at least 3 times since I've been town clerk.
Yeah.
County Council took the decision in 2010. I was at the meeting when they did it, so I was clerk in that meeting, where they said they didn't want people reversing out of herringbone parking, which is what it was, into the high street. That meeting was presaged by a big consultation in the training room of boots, as I remember. They've always said they're not going to undo the work that was done in the marketplace. I'll put it back to them. We do put it back to them regularly. But what they say to us is Berwick short of parking spaces anyway.
In Northwest and Alnwick, they still have a lot of it in Alnwick.
Yeah, I know, and I've never understood the logic of the decision.
So they can't say that you can't have it in Berwick if they've got it in Alnwick
And
because it's under the
council's
same
vibrant. There's not
it's under
shop
the
to be
same
had in council.
council.
Yeah, town centre
I'm not
parking.
defending, because my view is actually that if you've got people reversing at random back into the main flow of traffic, it slows everything down because everybody's panicky that somebody's going to reverse out into them, and it actually makes it safer for pedestrians because the traffic isn't as fast. I see the logic. We take it back to them every time. They say no every time. We'll keep doing it. Can I make a really random suggestion here? And I'm going off piece, Mr. Mayor, so forgive me. There's a really good facility to set a petition on the County Council website. When we wanted to get the signatures to get Eagle Road Woodlands transferred to us, that's how we did it. Yeah? Just put petitions, Northumberland County Council on the website, start petitioning. It's as simple as that. You'll see how many signatures you get enough signatures, they will have to pay attention. Because over 100 signatures, it has to go to a council committee for a public debate. Yeah? That's my, I'm not going to have to do it by a councillor, so I'm going off piece a bit. But my recommendation to you, Brown, and to you, Louise, if you want to come in the office and I'll show you how to start the petition. I'm in on Friday morning. Yeah? Come in and see me. I'll show you how to do it. We'll get it underway and test the water. See how many people want that done.
I have had a live question from Fiona Calder asking how this project would be funded, the community woodland.
Short answer is that we have a small pot of money for environmental work. We're not expecting in the first year for it to cost more than a couple of £1,000. Council's already committed to do that. If it's going to cost more than a couple of £1,000, it's not much of a community woodland. It starts to look like a much larger project. So in year one, we expect we can fund it from within existing resources. Once residents tell us what they want, then we'll work out the business case if there's large scale spending on. It's a straightforward answer.
Thank you. I know, talking of missing councillors, I also had something from former councillor Paul Jackson, who wanted me to ask, how are you getting on with the 27 unactioned items that John Robertson talked about last year, which became the strategic plan, but there's been no update, and he would like to know where you are on fulfilling them.
Action plan identified at least 27, and then more were added, and we've got through about half of them.
Will you be publishing the action plan and the achievements?
It's on the agenda for every item. It will be in the new year, and as you're aware, because you had your meeting about it this afternoon, Laura, I'm going through it with all the new committee chairs to make sure what stays in, what gets added in, and what has become out of date, effectively. So the short answer is all that will be reported at the next council meeting, which is 24th of June, I think. It's the last Monday in June, anyway.
Is that the full council?
Full council, in the usual place. So we'll see you there, Wendy.
Well, I'm trying to...
I'm sorry, carry on.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to... Another message is coming in about the bunting, but I'll have to tell you. She's saying the riding the bounds bunting is coming down tomorrow. We leave it any longer, it becomes faded and damaged. And it was replaced this year for that very reason. I'm Wendy Robertson from the Bridge, and I think a few of you know me. And I have been working very hard to scrutinise the council and its actions, and that's been quite difficult at some times. It's not because I want to be so negative and nitpicking, but I just feel that with the money that is given to the council, the residents and taxpayers deserve to know. And, you know, without kind of going into too much detail, I just want to say this in a public forum, that it would be helpful, you know, if I ask questions that they can be answered directly. And it's probably worth mentioning that one cannot libel a council if that was ever kind of something that was going to come up. It's been proven in law, because it's so important that councils are scrutinised that it's impossible to libel.
It's such a shame that you didn't stay on the council longer, Wendy, and then you would have had an opportunity at every council meeting to actually scrutinise us from within.
I'm not going to go into that, John, because I can't go into it in this forum, but it's just, it's not well supported when you join the council, let me say. That's all I'll say.
And all I'll say is that we have spent, as the councillors you see around this table, we have spent this last year trying to change the council that you joined to be a far more proactive council, to have concentrate far more on delivery than policy, and you will see the benefits of that in the years going forward. Unfortunately, and we have got a new election coming up next May. Some councillors have already said they will not be standing there, and if we keep on carrying on as we are, you will not have a functioning council. So again, I encourage people here who have an interest in this town, please come on board. We're not going to bite your hand off. We're all volunteers. We don't get paid for this, but we do have a desire to see this town improve. We can't do the big things, and that sounds like a cop-out. It's not a cop-out. It's just being realistic. But we can make a difference to the small things, and please come along and join us.
But are you saying, because there's 5 vacancies at the moment, and there's a, so would, if people put themselves forward, they would be co-opted until the next?
Yes.
Yes.
When's the next election?
Next May.
Next May.
So we haven't got a lot of time to carry out on the action plan, but actually there are action plans for each of the separate committees. So it's not just one big plan. We've subdivided that down, so budget and admin have policies they're looking at. Neighbourhood plan has been looked at by planning. Local services, again, is looking at delivering on that as front as well. So there are a lot of things happening. Maybe we just don't tell you as much as we possibly can about all the things we are looking at. But we are looking at them, please.
Getting back to what Wendy was saying about scrutiny, and I've certainly experienced myself when I questioned the electric vehicle, which you told me cost 23,000, and when I had a look it was actually 32,000.
It was a VAT thing, Brian. You know you can claim
VAT?
VAT. So So it costs more, but you claim 20% VAT back, so it's down to, I think it's about 25. So I was at £2,000 out of the figure, but that's because we talk about a non-VAT figure.
Have you had any issues with the vehicle? Have you been keeping track of how beneficial it is to the town?
Yeah, Gareth?
We've had one issue, which has been resolved, and the issue was that there was a programming issue on the computer on the van. Essentially, it hadn't been programmed to carry as much weight of water as we put into it within the legal limits for pressure washing. Other than that, it's worked well. I should, when we get it to 1 year, sit down and calculate the mileage and calculate how much CO2 would have been pumped out into the atmosphere by us burning diesel for that number of miles, rather than using electricity. And other things for it, and I'll probably do that. But
will you be looking at where the electric comes from and how much CO2 is emitted during, for the generation of that electric?
We could.
Brian, I think that is a national issue, right? Take that up with the MPs, because that's something that the whole country is saying.
I'm only asking, Gareth said he's going to do this exercise, so it was a simple question.
Yeah, and the simple answer is that we do get some stats from our energy supplier about where our energy comes from, what percentage is renewables, what percentage is fossil fuel. Whether that's useful or not, I don't know, and I'll tell you the reason why, is that the mix of fossil versus renewable changes day by day and changes by time of day. We're a small town council. Now, am I going to spend a couple of hours researching those numbers, or am I going to spend a couple of hours checking the legal advice on whether we can clean people's gutters against their will? Which is what some of you would like me to spend more time on, I suspect. So, can you understand why sometimes...
No, it's just that you said that you were doing the research, and that was just...
No, I said I should do it, and if I've got the time I will, but it'll be that broad brush of, this is how much electricity we've used, and how many miles we've done, this is how much diesel we would have burned. And for people in Berwick, in terms of their air quality, that is a straightforward set of numbers. Yeah? Want me to go deeper? I'll then decide
you could
whether...
look deeper into the cost of the vehicle to the environment before you start, which is huge.
We've had that conversation before.
Yeah.
I can't fix the world's problems,
no.
But if I can change the air quality in Berwick slightly, I'm really happy to have done that, and I'll set
And have you tested the air quality in Berwick?
Weirdly, it gets tested by Her Majesty's government. Berwick's got some of the cleaner air of anywhere in Northumberland. Cleanest is at the end of my street in Blythe, actually. Dirtiest, rather, is at the end of my street in Blythe, because I live by the bus station. But we know that but for us buying that vehicle, X number of gallons of diesel would have been burned in Berwick town centre. Now, I'm happy to settle for that as an impact change. Other people might be willing to, some like you might be critical. That's fine, I'll just put the numbers out there and see what happens, Brian.
Anyone else? If not, Laura?
Can I just remind everybody that the town council does put out an e-newsletter. If you're not receiving the e-newsletter, you can go onto the website and ask to receive it. That's one way of trying to keep in touch with some of the things that we are trying to do.
Okay, then,
Just one quick one. You have 5 councillors short. Is there a reason? Did they all give reasons why they finished?
For different reasons, Brian.
And it was not nothing.
It's a national problem, Brian. If you go on the website of the National Association of Local Councillors, you'll see that there are local councils, rather. You'll see the problems right across the country. We ask an awful lot of volunteers in a political environment where trust is low and where being an elected representative can be challenging. We are not exceptional in the number of vacancies we have. We're not exceptional in the amount of churn we have. Where I think we have an issue is around both the age profile. Again, we're about the same as most councils. Our group of councillors is older than the average population. That's why I've been instructed to do a lot of work this autumn around councillor recruitment, around helping to identify people who want to stand for council next year, with a particular focus on underrepresented groups. I've been tasked with that. It's work I used to do for the county council, so I'll be doing it out there.
And is there a criteria for being a councillor, or can anyone?
Anybody who lives within 3 miles of the boundary of Berwick, or anybody whose principal place of business is in Berwick upon Tweed. There are certain limitations, I think, in terms of financial status and disqualification, but other than that, generally, just about everybody who's over voting age is eligible. I'm proud of the fact that when I first came here, we had one of the youngest mayors in England. I'd like to see us do that again. No disrespect to the current mayor.
None taken. Yes.
Would it be helpful if I said something about malting?
Yeah.
I hate to inject a little bit of optimism into it. Because I know there's been lots of speculation about this, and it has been a very testing, challenging time over the uncertainty of the last 4
Could you
years.
maybe introduce yourself, Scott, for people who don't know?
Oh, right, sorry. My name's Scott Sherrard. I'm chair of the Maltings Trust. And so we have been working with various people for the last 4 or 5 years to try and take advantage of the allocation of funding to build an improved maltings. And that is very much part of regeneration, and I think the contribution it can make to regeneration in the town is enormous. As everyone will know, it's not gone as quickly, as speedily as everyone had hoped. And there's a very straightforward reason for that, which isn't the county council, which I know that some people like to suggest that it is. The county council are in charge of this project. It is their project. It is not the Maltings project until we get it at the end of the process. So if you go back just before COVID, we were told we might get £60 million to develop better maltings. We then had COVID, which brought huge challenges to all of us, and obviously to maltings as well. At the end of that, that amount had grown to £20 million as what we could then expect to have. And then we had rampant inflation. Rampant inflation to the extent that all production costs and all estimates went out of the window, essentially. If you want to look at yesterday's Scotsman, you'll see in parallel the King's Theatre in Edinburgh received a similar £20 million to do what they needed to do. As of yesterday, they've already spent £37 million, and they've had to pause it because essentially they need no more money. And that is because of the rampant level of inflation that has thrown all those costs out. So we have been working very closely with the council to try and find a way through that, and I do believe we have now found a way through that. And the way that we will get through that is twofold, really. One is to remove the dependence on new build. So in other words, we will instead make what we have brilliant, rather than spread further out and spread further away. But we will still be able, I say all of this with my fingers crossed, but we will still be able to have a new theatre, a permanent cinema, in other words, cinema throughout the year, so anyone can expect to be able to go and see a film here rather than have to go up to Edinburgh or down to Newcastle. That's going to make a big difference to us. And a much improved public facility. What it will also need to do to make that work and to deliver value for money accountable to the people of Berwick, essentially, but also to the people like the Levelling Up Fund and Borderlands who are providing the money, is that we'll have to be more programme-led than it's been in the past, which I think ties in with some of the things you've been saying, Louise, because I think if we can go out, if you look at something like when the film festival's on, for example, you get 3 days of concentrating new people in the town, and there's a bus. And we have had that reflected, and there's things going on. if we can make that happen more often, so that, for example, if we take what's happening at the 400 celebration, for example, if that was all tied in, if all of this was program-led, we would have a bustling town. You need the resources to do that, though, and you need a building where that can be led from. The building will never do this on its own. It needs all of the town involved, and we're going to have to prove, because this funding, all of these funding things that people talk about, is as if there was a lump of money that's been stuck in a cupboard, and if you're very lucky, you can take it out at the end and you can do your bit with it. You can't. You've got to prove it will work. There's got to be a business case at the start, which we've done, a business case now, which is a different business case because we're going to do it a different way, and a business case at the end once we've got the tenders for the building. So everything has to work through that process. But I am really excited that we have made such progress in the last 2 months probably. I think that you should see plans, and they would be shared and consulted within about, let's say, 8 weeks, but I hope it could even be quicker than that. That would then go to planning. So don't all object, please, because it would be much easier if you didn't. But it shouldn't be as intrusive anyway, because we'll be talking about building it from within what we have, rather than adding to it everywhere. And therefore, if that all goes well, I look at my fellow trustee, but I would think, we would hope that middle of next year, maybe a little earlier, there would be spade in the ground. I would then expect it to be 18 to 24 months to open in a new form. We have very exciting plans for what we call decant when we're out. And hopefully that's where we can get all of the town involved. And I mean all of the town. I mean places like this, where we can be doing things when we're out.
It sounds like you could do a public meeting to explain all this, because this feels like a difference from what we were expecting.
Well, I hope it isn't too different. And the only reason that we've not, the key for us as trustees is our staff. If uncertainty being debated and discussed is not fair to our staff. It's more than unsettling, it's unfair. And I think that what we will do is the consultation that will start within 4 or 5 weeks will be extensive, and we will be wanting to involve everyone in that.
Would there be possible that you're doing something in the barracks whilst you can't use the Maltons?
Yes.
Like doing an outdoor cinema and
I think there'll be
small
lots
events in there that you would normally do in the Maltons.
I think there will be lots of opportunities. I mean, we are, as a trust, we are part of the barracks partnership. And certainly I think there are opportunities there. But I think there's opportunities elsewhere too. I think there's opportunities in the churches. I think there's opportunities in homes like this. We won't be able to do all the things that we can do just now. Otherwise we wouldn't need a building. But yes, you know, I think the barracks is an obvious connector for us. That. We do, of course, have the Mobstore cinema, controversially, in the barracks. It's an interesting one in that it's appeared slightly later than we thought it was going to, but it's premature in the sense that we don't need it yet. So therefore we are going to, on your point on consultation, the first stage will be for us to see how it works, and we're therefore going to have a couple of test screenings which will be, frankly, just to make sure how does that work. What does happen? How do we get people from the parade to the cinema? What do they think of the cinema? We think it's pretty good, but what do they think of it when they're there? How do they think they'll use it? And once that's covered, once all the acoustic tests is through and finished, I would imagine in the short term we'll probably use it more for spoken word events. Literary Festival, for example, I know are quite keen on looking at that. Before we start maybe looking at looking at using it more at Christmas. The advantage for us at Christmas and for the town at Christmas is that's usually panto, and when we've got panto, we can't show films. So therefore, if we can get to the situation where we can show films, that's better. And then once we're out, it's a fantastic resource. It means we've got a town cinema for the town of the town. And again, people don't have to rush off somewhere else. So
you're doing like the hospital, so you're rebuilding on the same site?
Yeah. So rebuilding within the same site has to, yes. I mean, it is really, and just in case people think, well, how does that work? Just to give you some examples, the reason I'm here rather than the chief exec is because she's down in London at the moment, because we've been looking at the footprints of other theatres to give you an idea of how that works. Because this won't be quite as big a theatre as we were originally saying, but it will be as big as we have, but it will be a much better facility. The reason that this is, some of you may say, I love the Maltings, please say that, but thank you very much.
I only moved here because of the Maltings.
I want all of this written down before I leave. Yeah. But the reason it has to change is that economically it is disastrous. I mean, environmentally it is appalling. And that was reflected in the fact that when we had hopes to be out of the building, that's when, of course, everything went bang on energy costs. Our energy costs went up £100,000 a year. And you just can't run like that. You cannot operate like that. And environmentally, it is so important.
And you're on standstill funding for the arts council.
And yes.
So you've got to find that 100,000 out of thin air.
Exactly. We've had, and the council has been helpful on some of that. But also the other reason is that, I mean, at the moment, it's not accessible. So if you're in a wheelchair, I mean, we can, for almost, you know, it's why people should have to sit at the back to be entertained. It's just appalling. We can't do it like that. Yeah, so we've got to be accessible, we've got to be more efficient in terms of the environment, all of those important topics. So, I mean, I think that's where the opportunity is enormous in terms of what we can now do. But I think we've been very crafty, frankly, in how we've worked that out. We are not going to hit that problem. We are checking the budget, our costs against budget, almost on a weekly basis now. We are not going to be hit by yet another of these sudden leaps and lurches. So I think, hopefully, attend, come. I mean, I think that's, well, I think I'll get involved. There's a lot of...
Sorry,
just one question. Can you confirm then, with this rejigging of the plan, I was quite alarmed when I read the competition brief that you put out with REBA, and it said that the intention was to create a landmark beacon of the building visible from the train. Has that been scrapped? Because that would be
to go back, it isn't going to be any higher now than it is. So the landmark, but interestingly, to explain that, the landmark beacon objective didn't come from either the Maltings or the council.
So why was it in the,
because it came from the funder.
Okay.
That's why. But that's
well, thank you.
But it will be gorgeous.
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
we do,
so
that is going to be, it will be gorgeous.
Yeah. And how do we get involved with the consultation? Will it be, I mean, I noticed the architect that won the competition, is it still the same architect?
Michael won the competition.
It's still Michael,
it is
right.
Yeah. It is Michael. And they'll therefore be organising that.
Yeah, and I think that the point about the landmark building is not a shed, you know.
No, I mean there are one could get into many arguments here about what would be an appropriate form, and this is not the place for going there. But I'm very glad that there will be a robust public consultation, and I encourage everyone to get involved and express their opinions. Don't feel cowed by what the idea that it might be a shed or whatever. So please
Everyone put their opinion.
The normal planning process will apply.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only, what I would say is that my own personal view, and that's only my personal view, is that it should look striking. It should look like something that the town is proud of.
Yes, whatever that might be. So we'll see what the architects come up with.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very optimistic again on theirs. And I think if you look at their work, which you mean how well done, they've done a lot of work in conservation areas, not least the Oxford universities. And I think that's pretty demanding.
We shall see what they produce. I mean, I should be very interested to see plans when they come. So it's all good news.
Can I wrap this
Yeah,
up?
please.
This is to be continued at a later stage, but it'll be under Scott's or chairmanship, not my particular chairmanship. But it's still good to know that that funding's still there. It's still good to know that we are going to get a reinvestment in our moldings. We desperately need it. You know, it draws so many people in, both locally and regionally. We just need to add to that a couple of 4-star hotels with that in the town as well. But we can't, until I win the Euro Millions, that's not likely to happen. But thank you very much everyone for turning up tonight. I know we've gone here, there and everywhere. We don't have all the answers, but we have our hearts in the right place. It's just sometimes we get frustrated ourselves, but we take on board what we're saying.
Thank you very much. I think it's been a great meeting and we have allowed people to speak. I do really appreciate that, because the general town council meetings, you get 3 minutes at the beginning, and it's ridiculous, because you talk about things that need to be talked about afterwards and we don't get that opportunity. So with that in mind, either have more of these or change the way you run your town council meeting.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.